G'day, this is Luke, and I'm here to do a little adventure review for the 3rd edition adventure, Bastion of Broken Souls. So, this adventure I've run previously. It's 3rd edition, it's high level, and hopefully this is going to be pretty spoiler-free. So I'll do another one later for DMs discussing what recommendations I want for running this. But this one should be pretty good for players, as most of the stuff should be very common. The stuff written on the front and back of the book, easy stuff, and then some discussion about potentially how to shape your gameplay there. So what is this adventure? The blood of ancient battles rise. An eternal demonic war draws dangerously close to an end, threatening the balance of all existence. At the crux of this chaotic feud resides a legendary terror, fixed upon immortality at any cost. Only the most powerful heroes can hope to defeat a force that lies beyond the influence of the gods. In the Bastion of Broken Souls, PCs solve a mystery, help a demon prince come to terms with his dual nature, overcome a deity stripped of his divinity, battle a great worm red dragon half demon, and eventually repair the damaged cycle of life. Well, that's how the adventure describes it. I would say that's not 100%. Of all that I just spoke about, you do not really help a demon prince come to terms with his dual nature. Not really covered off on this unless the DM adds it, but nah, that's definitely not in this. But what is in this is it's a level 18 to 21 3rd edition adventure by Bruce R. Caldwell, published in 2002. This 48-page book completes a series of short adventures that started at level 1 with the Sunless Citadel, and each of these books went for about 2 to 3, maybe 4 levels, and worked their way up slowly. Now they're all designed to be run either independently or sequentially, however you wanted to do it, and to be slotted into any campaign. So they were pretty good, and I've played most of them off the top of my head. The hooks for this adventure start off with being attacked by a Marilith. All the children that are being born in the world, there is a problem, or hunting down the great dragon, a Ashardalon. So a number of things there, and I just triggered all of them as from when I ran mine, just to make sure we're covering off on all bases for people who are driven by different things. Locations for this are set all across the plains. The module suggests going back and having some of your greatest hits locations, as that will help the DM in this campaign. Or the other way of doing it is just put these locations that aren't particularly set, most of them, in fantastical places amongst the plains. Places like the City of Brass, the Column Mountains of Bytopia, or the Gates of the Moon in Yizgard. All these places, and many more, could any of these locations, fight scenes, and role-play scenes happen in. And so, strongly suggest for DMs who potentially want to experiment with a bit more creativity and stepping out beyond their norms. You want to take people below the sea? Throw it in this adventure. It'll easily slot in. Going that with saying a copy of the Manual of the Plains or a reasonable amount of study into the plains will help with running this adventure. So that's the ones that can go anywhere, and the modules sort of suggest put them anywhere. But there are a few that are set. I guess on reflection, you possibly could put them somewhere different, but you might have to do some changes to the story, and the locations they are work well with planar hopping around. The only thing I can suggest there would be help your DM by telling them where you plan to go, so he can put the study and prep into it, because not all DMs are prepared to just run an adventure skipping across multiple planes, which is the equivalent of jumping across multiple cities within single sessions. The other one is DM, if you need that randomness as you jump through the planes, the DM could potentially roll ahead, and as you randomly jump across the planes, the DM's at least got some idea. So to the players it still seems random, and the DM potentially could have rolled them to determine, but some study may be needed to do that. With this one, travel is also going to be a part of it. as your characters are going to travel not only potentially great distances, but also across the plains. A number of methods would be needed and will greatly help the group if not just one person is the person who's always got to cast Portal or Gate, but if other characters have spells or equipment that can get them around the plains, which will greatly help. And what will help you have all these resources, be it sailing ships or with magical masts that can take them across the plains or float them down the river Styx or up the river Oceana, would be all the gold you get in this campaign. Let's just say players will spend a long time trying to spend. If you're running this as a 3rd edition and you're giving the gold for a starting character at level 18, it is 440,000 gold pieces. That's a hell of a lot, but I mean, it does go pretty quick when you're buying +7 or +9 swords and such. But for a campaign of something this big, don't just spend your money on +9 sword, +8 armor, and a +6 shield. Like, be creative. Look at some of the different things you can do and get away with. Really go through, and it will take some time. Don't expect people to make players, not even just go creating their characters, equipment within a single sit down. Trying to spend that money, trying to come up with things. I mean, go wild and cool and just make sure like everyone's got magic carpets to ride on and everyone's got wondrous items and cool things and all the sort of stuff that you've seen in any adventure that your characters have got it all. Because you're going to need a lot of magic items and equipment to fight this. Not to say that, and there's going to be lots of it around as you defeat all your enemies. Continuing on with prepping for this adventure will also be the prepping the characters. You're making level 18 characters. For a rogue or such, it might not be too hard to quickly just pump that out as you just keep increasing the old D6. But for player characters like wizards, druids, anything that's got spells, trying to figure out what spells that you've only just ever read about one or two, and then trying to compare it against other spells you don't know, you will have to sit down for a reasonable amount of time reading through spells. Which, when I get to this, when I talk more about higher level stuff, like, this is not something for beginner characters. Like, this would just blow people's minds and keep them back to the low level stuff. This is for experienced players. With high level abilities for this campaign at level 18, make sure your players know your abilities. Don't just try and run this one straight out of the gate with everyone just coming up with something, and they will not achieve much, and it will be quite disappointing. I think I gave my group 2 to 3 weeks to prep characters on this one, because by the time they start buying stuff, they talk with each other, someone else found a cool magic item, someone started making a character and then realised, I don't want to play a druid of this level, or I'm not interested in this other class, because I can talk about it later, high level stuff, but bards really start capping out in 3rd edition when they stop gaining any more ranks than 13 in performance. Top of my head, I think that is, and they just don't keep getting better. Fighters keep getting better, but it's a mixture of the same sort of stuff. Rogues are in the same boat, same with barbarians. You just get better at doing your one thing, but your casters, these are complex characters, and I mean, a lot of people might have wanted to cast Meteor Swarm, but I mean, there's also a lot of other 8th level spells that you need to choose from to figure out how you're going to build this character. So give yourselves plenty of time. And it's not just equipment based sort of stuff. Your characters are going to have to know things and do research and track things down in this adventure. So the knowledge of being able to go to places and you have resources, and not just everyone just to have the biggest plus equipment they can carry on them, but to have a wealth of equipment that they would have collected in their years of adventuring will be useful. Along with also the knowledge of resources such as places like Candle Keep that exists, and you could go there to help your research and development. But after talking about that stuff loosely, I wouldn't mind getting into what the adventure's all about. And going to keep this as spoiler free as I can. So the adventure's going to start off as written with an attack from an unknown assailant. And after the attack, I guess the group are going to have to That's their stepping off point to try and track down why are they being attacked. And from there, they can travel around and investigate and cast some spells and get themselves to the next location and track down this assailant to then find out more information that'll slowly uncover more and more of this mystery of what's going on. And hopefully that will be enough to inspire the characters to track down it to its conclusion. The group is going to defeat countless demons. Possibly also angels and gods that stand in their way. A lot of the fights are going to be contained within 20 to 300 feet areas. So this will also help contain and control some of the action by running it inside buildings and dungeons and caverns and things like that. But there is still lots of room for random encounters when travelling and being in the open areas, especially when you put the planes in. There's even chances to enter the dream plane and fight creatures of imagination. Then for the second part of this adventure, the group is going to travel somewhere that's going to be foreign to them, a place where too much healing can kill them. This is where fighter types, barbarians and rogues and or even paladins and such are really going to start shining in the second half, and the casters are going to start dragging the feet as they've been carrying the group potentially for the first part. The second part, they're going to find themselves slowing the group down with their needs for rest while the fighters and that can keep pushing through. They're going to be fighting bad guys while competing in four-way fights between demons, half-dragons, planar natives, and their group themselves. And this is where the Dungeon Master is really going to earn his keep, particularly as it steps into a final showdown with a beefed-up Great Worm Red Dragon. This adventure has a great ending, and for characters and players and anyone about, it's something that is rewarding and that they're going to enjoy. Although, if needed, it also leaves a small gap available for divinity passed upon, and the stepping into epic level adventures, if so desired. It's also been written so that any class or race combo can be used, add into the countless prestige classes and abilities. This adventure has been written in a way that is broad enough that will cover a lot of things, but the DM is still going to have to do some work there. With the lack of adventures written for this level, and the fact that some DMs and players don't even like going much above level 10, the potential for the length of campaigns being run, it's hard to compare this against many other adventures or modules. With the NPCs not lasting too long to guide the adventure, and its non-location specific feel of this campaign also makes it harder to set up a bit of a consistent theme throughout the whole time, other than the fact that things keep changing as they jump across the planes. Throwback to anyone from the 90s who remembers the TV show Sliders, could be much like that. With the changing tone of locations, this can make the game feel like things constantly change, and there isn't a consistency to it other than the non-consistency. For low levels, placing a wall between objectives or just some distance can easily control or guide the group as to which way they should go. But at these levels, with access to a treasury and 9th level spells, adventures in this campaign can easily go running off the rails pretty damn quick. And so this one is hard to put a score to. Just remember that some fair amount of work potentially will have to be done by the DM to run this. And also it should only be run by experienced DMs and other groups. Examples of this can simply be a monster's stat block will just list, honestly, 20 plus spells that the bad guy can use, and there could be 5 to 8 bad guys at times. So employing the high level threats effectively, a dungeon master really has to be on their game with this one, and as does players sitting around the table, sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for a wizard to pick which spell they should use and having to go back and forth and reviewing this really does sort of set it up for it would have been better if you could have run up to this to give people some time to get into it. So I would definitely recommend players getting the chance to do a few combat sessions to start getting some of those basic things out of the way, just so they can make the fights, once the story actually begins, a little bit more smoother. And for that, with this ranking review, I'm going to have to score this one on the D20 a 16. Well, if this little review got your gaming fluids flowing and you were keen to discover a little bit more about this adventure, I've previously run this one and have videos about the retelling of it. I'm also getting ready to organise and put a video together on a DM's guide to running this adventure, and I've also got another one on how the players went in my game and in the after game discussions of how they felt the whole thing went. So if you like this, please like and subscribe. I'll be talking more about adventures, both old and new, as I run reviews with them, as I run them, and cast my mind back to the ones that I was players in. Hopefully you enjoy this. Thanks for tuning in.